After 300 years in which Lagos was created and governed by the Oba of Benin, in the year 1830, the British told the people residing in Lagos to inform the Oba of Benin that they were now under the authority and control of the British colonies, but the people refused. So the British took control by force. Hello everyone, my name is Nekbe Obasoge. I'm from the ancient city of Benin. I am a writer and my main area of research is colonial power in Africa. Today's topic is very important and prominent: the annexation of Lagos in 1861 by the British. Oba Orogboa, who reigned between 1550 to 1578, founded Eko, now known as Lagos. However, in 1830, after 300 years in which Lagos was founded and governed by the Oba of Benin, the British in Lagos at that time told the people to inform the Oba of Benin that Lagos is now under the authority of the British colonies. Prior to 1861, the remains of all the Obas of Lagos were brought to Benin for final burial after death. However, when Oba Akintoye died in the late 19th century, the British in Lagos at that time prohibited the people from bringing the remains of Akintoye to Benin for burial, claiming that Lagos is now under the authority of the British colonists. There is no doubt that the history of how the Oba of Benin founded Lagos is one aspect of the Nigerian history that has been suppressed in the country over these years, especially in the academic system. Lately, I had the opportunity to access some scholarly articles that were written in different universities in Nigeria regarding the history of Lagos. None of these articles reference the Oba of Benin as the founding father of Lagos. Even the Europeans that wrote about Benin Nigerian history in the 19th and 20th century, such as Allen Ryder, Bosragon, Bacon, Roth, they all reference the Oba of Benin as the founder of Lagos. Why is this topic surrounding how the Oba of Benin founded Lagos is very controversial in Nigeria today? Let's dive into the main story. According to oral history in Benin and books written by the Europeans, Eko, now known as Lagos, was established at the initial stage as a war camp by Oba Orogboa of the Benin Kingdom, who reigned from 1550 to 1578. It was an attempt by the Oba of Benin to control the present-day coastline of Nigeria in about 500 years ago. Oba Orogboa was the first king of Benin that acquired Western education in Portugal and was trained in one of their marine schools in the country before he returned back to Benin when his father, Oba Esige, joined his ancestors in 1550 AD. Oba Orogboa understood the power of navigation and became a seafarer when he returned back to Benin. At that point in history, the Portuguese were the best seafarers among the Europeans in Africa. Immediately Oba Orogboa ascended the throne, he organized either independently or with the support of the Portuguese an expedition to establish control over the present-day coastline, extending from Ghana, Togo, the present-day Republic of Benin, down to the borders of modern Gabon in the south. Camps made up of Benin soldiers were established along the coastline. After a few years of the establishment of Lagos by the Oba of Benin, a decision was reached to make it a permanent territory with a bureaucratic government. It got to a particular time when the nobles in Benin saw that it was necessary to have a representative to control and manage the affairs of the new camp called Eko by the Benin people. However, there were others who had argued that the occupation and settlement be disbanded since it was too far from Benin City. Edo, Nobaye. Edo, the land where there is an Oba. Oba Orogboa countered the argument by saying that you do not just create a camp and desert a settlement you have established. He immediately ordered one of his sons to go back to Lagos and take charge of the land with the title of Isikpa. Isikpa here wore, which is the Edo translation of Oba Orogboa's argument, meaning that you don't just create a camp and desert from the settlement you have established. When Oba Orogboa joined his ancestors in the 16th century, his son Asikpa came back to Benin and was later sent back to Lagos to continue from where his father had stopped. Up to date, the Asikpa in Yoruba royal title is bestowed on one of the high chiefs by the Oba of Lagos. The successor of Orogboa, Oba Ihembuda, died en route to Lagos. He drowned in the Atlantic Ocean during one of his visits to Lagos. His death is always reenacted at Igwe Festival with special songs and the movement of a man being tossed about by the ocean tides. Hitherto, the Obas of Benin always lead the army to war, but the incident of Oba Ihembuda led to the reform of the tradition of allowing the Oba of Benin to lead the army during war. The responsibility was given to Chief Ezomo of Benin. He became the commander of the Benin Royal Army in the territories under the authority of the Oba of Benin. It is important to note that the title Oba of Lagos or Eko is a recent adaptation as a result of the British occupation of Nigeria. Up till the 1920s, whoever was the ruler of Lagos was referred to as the Eleko of Eko. He was not regarded as an Oba on the same footing with the Oba of Benin. In the battle for Lagos in the 1850s between Akintoye and Kosoko, both confirmed the fact that Lagos belonged to the Oba of Benin and that they had the support of the Oba on their claim to rulership. The Oba of Benin was aggrieved by the activities of the British in Lagos in the 19th century and saw them as a political vampire in the region whose aim was to destroy his political domination of that part of Africa. The Oba preferred the Portuguese, whose interest was centered around trade and exchange of materials. The activities of the British traders were driven by imperialism and colonization of territories in Africa. Therefore, the battle for Lagos in the 1850s and finally the 1897 British punitive expedition in Benin was inevitable. Some historians tend to see the battle for Lagos as a Kosoko and Akintoye's conflict. It was actually a battle between Britain on one hand and Benin Portuguese on the other. Kosoko was anti-British and pro-slave trade. In the end, Britain and Akintoye won and Kosoko Benin lost. Kosoko mobilized some reprisals against Akintoye and was hunted by the British agents. His second son, Olojo, ended up in Benin City just before the British invasion of Benin in 1897. Olojo was arrested by the Benin soldiers as a spy for the British since he spoke Yoruba and came from Lagos. He was presented before Oba of Orame in chains. He shouted at the top of his voice in Yoruba, "I am a descendant of Asipa, the first Eleko of Eko. I am Olojo, the second son of Kosoko. I came back home to claim my rights and Edo heritage. I am here to see what has remained of Asipa's house." Oba Ovorame immediately ordered him freed, and Olojo Kosoko was given a piece of land where he built his house opposite Oba's market in Benin. He later converted the house into a mosque because he was a Muslim and converted many families into Islam. That mosque is still standing at the head of Lagos Street in Benin City, opposite the Oba's market. The street was renamed Lagos Street because of Olojo Kosoko, the Edo man who came back home to continue with the legacy of his forebears. His descendants in Benin today go by the name Olojo without the Kosoko attached to it. After 300 years in which Lagos was created and governed by the Oba of Benin, in the year 1830, the British told the people residing in Lagos to inform the Oba of Benin that they were now under the authority and control of the British colonists, but the people refused. So the British took control by force. Similarly, they took Asaba, Akure, and Owo, and brainwashed the people to stop practicing the art of paying tribute or homage to the Oba of Benin. They also took the Shekiri land and Saple and manipulated them to reveal the secrets of the Benin kingdom. The annexation of Lagos by Britain in 1861 was a big loss on the side of the Oba of Benin. After more than 300 years of the creation and occupation of Lagos by the Benin people, the British took over Lagos. Finally, the British forced Oba Dusumu of Lagos to sign the Article of Annexation of Lagos as belonging to Britain in 1861. It is also important to note that the rulers of Lagos and Badagry whose bodies were brought to Benin City for final burial were those that died before the British occupation of Lagos in 1861. When Akintoye died, the British authorities refused the body to be taken to Benin City for final burial, on the ground that Lagos was now a British territory. Therefore, they had the right to command power over the citizens of Lagos. Before the British occupation of Lagos, the ancient Benin Empire had only one Oba, and that was the Oba of Benin. Many of the other traditional rulers from Lagos and some parts of Ondo, Ekiti, and Ogun states to the west, Delta, Anambra, Rivers, and Bayelsa states, to the east, Edo State own their origin and creation to the Obas of Benin. It is offensive for anyone to call or equate himself with the Oba of Benin. Dukedoms were created by the Obas of Benin beginning from the Ogiso era for their children for two reasons. The first reason was to reduce the conflict which sometimes accompanied secession struggles when the empire needed stability. Therefore, adult children of the deceased Obas were therefore given their own dukedoms to rule as if they were the Obas of Benin. Sometimes parallel institutions were created like in Iseluku, Uhele, Wari, Owo, Idiare, Irua, and more. Oba Eweka II created one dukedom for his brother Eige at Uwa village near Ugbogyobo on the old Lagos road near Naifo. Oba Akenzwa II also created 3 dukedoms for his brothers in 1935. Oba Erediawa created more than 8 dukedoms in 1988 for his brothers as well. He created the Ologbo, Abudu, and other dukedoms. The second reason for the creation of dukedoms by the Oba of Benin was for the generals to maintain power over the vast territories of the Benin Empire. This was their reward for loyal services to the Benin Kingdom. Sometimes prominent and loyal generals are also made dukes, Enogie, Enoje, and Obi by the Oba of Benin. They have the duty to report to the Oba in Benin, and these positions are hereditary and some are implemented in accordance to the law of primogeniture. Many of these generals married into the royal family to give it legitimacy and power. After the British conquest of Benin in 1897, the first move of the British authorities was to proclaim the independence of these dukedoms and territories as independent of the Oba of Benin. Warri Delta province was carved out of the Benin Empire, and a British officer was posted to Warri. In what remained of what they now called Benin province, Benin had already lost Lagos in the 1850s, and the remaining Yoruba states were effectively occupied by Lagos colony. The power of the Oba of Benin was now limited to what we now call the Edo-speaking areas of Edo State. By the time the British authorities discovered the damage they had caused as a result of their political and colonial arrangement in Benin, which was aimed at curtailing the power of the Oba of Benin, it was too late. The kingships, dukes, and other structures of leadership under the authority of the Benin Kingdom were traditionally mandated to pay tributes to the Oba of Benin. However, this structural arrangement of the Benin Kingdom was reshaped by the British colonists who constantly questioned the administrative power of the Oba of Benin. The British indoctrinated the people who were perceived as loyal to the Oba of Benin, especially some dukes, chiefs, and nobles under the serenity of the Benin Empire were stopped from paying tributes to the Oba of Benin. I will stop here for now and continue with the part 2 next time on how the Oba of Benin established the first ruler of Lagos. Even the current Oba of Lagos says that Lagos was founded by the Oba of Benin. After watching the analysis, what do you think about the British colonial rule in Africa? The story was drawn from my second book titled Benin Warriors and the British Colonial Rule in Nigeria. The book will be available online in 2 weeks' time. Check our website at nebotv.com. Thank you all for watching and stay tuned for my next history documentary on Nebo TV. Obaga Tokbe is